Yeah, we're here to talk all about the CNBC Jeff Bezos interview. Let's go ahead and dive into that real quick. He has a couple of takes on the economy, on the narrative when it comes to the billions. So there's a couple of clips we're gonna go dive into and give our takes on. So here we go.
About the billionaire class, about wealth inequality and policy and everything else. And it's taken a uniquely critical turn, I think. And I'm so curious, before we even get into everything else, what you think about that right now.
Well, first of all, Andrew, I'm glad you're asking the question. I think it's a really important topic. And I think it's an important one to discuss because I see the same thing you do. You know, you see it in a bunch of headlines, you see it in a bunch of places. And I have been thinking about like what is driving this? Because it does seem different from 10 years ago, and I think what's going on is that it's kind of a tale of two economies. So you have a bunch of people in this country who are doing really well, but you also have a bunch of people in this country who are struggling to pay rent, groceries, and so what's happening here is politicians are using the kind of age-old technique. So there's this tale of two economies, and they're using this age-old technique of picking a villain and pointing fingers. But the problem is that doesn't solve anything.
I'm gonna pause it right there. So from his perspective, this, I guess, zeitgeist or the way that people are talking about the billionaires right now. And just yesterday we had a podcast where I was going in on the billionaires.
Talking
Billionaires
about,
need regulation, bro. Billionaires do
I,
need to be told what the fuck to do sometimes because they have so much power. No one man should have all that power. That's a song for a reason. Because if you don't check these guys, they will be unfair. Um, and AOC a couple weeks ago we talked about how she said you can't even earn $1 billion without circumventing certain rules of regulation or undercutting certain people. Um, I don't want to dismiss anybody's point of view for how much money they make, whether they're poor or supremely wealthy. So I do want to hear where he come from and give my take on that. So he says that that's not the reason, right? Right? They say
Go ahead.
they said that no, I'm sorry, I was just reading the chat real quick. Is that you?
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, my bad, my bad. All right. So yeah, he was saying essentially that the politicians are creating a boogeyman as if they're playing and they want to point the finger at the villain, and they want to say there's two. And but one thing I agree with him on is that there is a tale of two economies right now in America. There are people who are doing extremely wealthy and doing extremely well right now, and there are people who are struggling a lot. And it's not just like a few people. I think there's a
he
most of people are struggling right now. You're right.
he talking like it's a two of economies, like he didn't fucking create it.
Exactly, and he's extremely culpable, and I want to get into that. But on the base level, he is 100% right. There are two economies right now, and that's because the middle class has disappeared. The middle class has been completely demolished due to you know tax breaks on the rich, tax breaks to corporations, Citizen United, having corporations being able to have a voice in politics, people paying off politicians. And I think without that being the it's like you can't sit there and say these things and act as if you don't know why, So and I think that's the thing. I think it's kind of a little bit a little bit nefarious. When you come out here and say certain things that, half truths, then people are gonna say, you know what, he's right. But
I
without
mean, yeah, you
telling the
just did
full
it.
story, yeah, exactly, exactly, that's my point. Without telling the full story, because what it shows is that hey, maybe these billionaires are not so out of touch. Right now, there's a guy in California running for governor. I'm gonna get his name. I wanna before I continue. Let me get his name. Tom Steyer. Yeah, he's running for governor in California. He's all for universal health care. He's all for taxing the rich. But this guy, I don't know what it is. He comes off as fake to me. They now we're getting to an era where the billionaires know the language of what we want to hear, right? And I think that they're playing up to it, you know. So when he says
Well,
there's go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, that I mean, you can't talk me into no pussy at this big grown age. You know what I'm saying?
You
Like it
sure
gotta
about
be
that?
actions. I'm actions. A bitch can say what she want. You know what I'm saying? Like a bitch can DM you, can talk to you, can tender message you. You know, can talk a real good game. Voice note sounds sexy as hell on the. It's action. And that's what I'm trying to say. Like when you saying they hear like buzzwords and shit like that, you running for governor to do what? To then get in power and flip the script? Like nigga, you got the potential to be before governor to flip the script right now. Put your money where your mouth is, where your action at, where your tax dollars go, where your money go, what you donate to. That's right now. Like hey, this ain't Angela Yee, Charlotte McGay, the God, nigga. This ain't lip service. I don't do the lip service, and
Feel you.
especially not from government officials running on behalf of speaking to me as if I'm a constituent. When you are going to do what there is no proof. There's no proof that like and I'll let you go with this. There's no proof that A, billionaires do for the people and two, government do for the people. So how the fuck you gonna merge both? How you believe that how you gonna make a nigga like me skeptical and believe what you say if there's no proof in the pudding, not from you or from predecessors? So yeah, you can't talk me out. You can't talk me in no put. I gotta walk in the house. You gotta be butt ass naked, bitch, with the sign that say I consent to sexual intercourse right now. And that's what the fuck gotta go on. Like
Feel you,
that
brother.
realistically,
Let's
like
hear let's hear a little bit more of the lip service.
And so, like, if you want to help the group of people who are struggling, you have to figure out real root causes and solutions, and that takes skill. You know, it's like the way if we have a problem at Amazon, you know, the way we would fix it is we would go in and we'd
well,
do the
fire
five
somebody.
whys and we'd try to get to a root cause. We'd try to find a root fix. And then when we fix it at the root, you're fixing it forever. It's a real solution. And what we
All
don't
right.
do
Let's
because
do
it does.
that. Let's do that.
Bro, what the
Let's
fuck
do
is
that.
they? No, no,
Let's
no, 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 no,
fucking
no,
do
no, no.
that,
Hold on,
Jeff.
hold on, hold on, hold
Let's
on,
do
hold on.
that, Jeff. Let's fix it at the root, Jeff. Let's fucking do that.
Hold on. They first and foremost, you never get access to Jeff Bezos, right? Let's just put that in perspective.
Yeah.
You're talking about a guy who bought the New York Times. So he's bought editorials. So you're talking about a person who has money, power, influence, and can control a message. Nigga, gone, cuz. You gonna
Listen,
sit
man.
there with this nigga cross-legged and interview Jeff Bezos and ask him, and when he say at the root of the cause, you don't do what the fuck I just did and say, Jeff, you got Amazon workers pissing in bottles, delivering packages. Jeff, Jeff, the Everything Is podcast just dropped a shirt about a 72-year-old. Jeff, Chris Moss, Jeff. Like, are you fucking kidding me right now? They let this nigga get this shit off?
This is why I need to talk about this. And I love that you're saying exactly what we need to be said right now. What needs to be said right now. I love it, bro. Cause I just want to let this nigga just talk for a second. You know, I'm gonna get to what I got, but keep going, brother. Like, keep.
doesn't work is just point fingers and blame people. It might feel good for 10 seconds, but doesn't accomplish anything. And so what could you really do? So like, I started,
do you have a plan?
I have some ideas. I have some places to start. So, I started thinking about this and doing some research. A nurse in Queens who makes $75,000 a year pays more than $12,000 a year in taxes. Does that really make sense? So people talk about, making the tax system more progressive. How about we start by having the nurse in Queens not pay taxes? Why is a nurse in Queens who makes $75,000 a year paying more than $1,000 a month in taxes? That's $1,000 a month that could help with rent or groceries or anything. And so, and by the way, do you know what
packages.
that all adds up to? The bottom half of income earners in this country pay only 3% of the taxes. So, it's only 3%. We can find 3%. So we don't have, it's a small amount of money for.
It makes me really upset that we think that these billionaires can say one or two things and get, because I'm looking at the comments, bro. People are getting convinced by this. And we don't act like they have, like, when he's, I didn't show you the whole video, bro. But he says that because he goes at AOC at one point. And that comment she made is that you don't earn $1 billion, right? He says if you just make a good product that everybody loves, that's how you get $1 billion, right? Just some basic bullshit fluff that he said, right? Meanwhile,
Bro, his website was to resell books, bro. Don't nobody even read. Don't nobody even read. I mean, but if you think about it, um,
he's
just like with
go ahead. Sorry, my bad.
I was just gonna say, just like with Flock, you can have an idea wholesomely, and then with the right amount of private equity investors, uh, it can be corrupted. Facebook, Meta, right? Twitter, Elon Musk, Tesla. Excuse me. Because Tesla, he was Elon Musk as the solar guy, and like he had equity because he was quote unquote on the right side of history. Because let's end fossil fuel consumption of gas, not knowing that boy, we'll dome you for this $1 trillion industry that you're trying to fuck with, Cliff. You know what I'm saying? Like so.
It's,
Billionaires also work with one another to continue the growth of one another.
I think it's just extremely disingenuous, like and, and when you know too much, you know too much. Like we just did a story on Jeff Bezos last week, right? After the Met Gala. And to hear him come out and say this stuff, it's extremely disingenuous because he gets the luxury of just sitting back and just saying whatever nonsense and taken seriously by CSNBC. Um, and it goes to show that listen, these billionaires are not in our favor. Like if you're being completely honest, you don't kind of try to put 226.6 million dollars against anti-union consultants if you're seriously about bridging the gap between the wealthy and the so you
That's how
created,
this
as you
California.
said, they created this gap.
That's how the California nigga gonna lose off the rip. Like you just said, you literally, if we just rewind and say, you said like we can't trust you. Like
Yeah,
we are
and
we are
even
metro future
progressives
right now. We
are
can't
like,
trust you.
yeah, I would vote for him. Even progressives are talking about voting for this guy. I'm like, guys, listen, bro, guys, take a second and look into this guy. And I might want to do a show on him tomorrow or like look into him tomorrow, but I gotta do my due diligence, do my research on this guy Tom Steyer and what he stands for, where he got his billions, and what he backs. But he's saying all the right things for California right now. And I mean, I'm not living in California, but seriously, bro, I don't trust a billionaire. I'm at that stage where I don't think a man should earn like I think that's the conversation. It's like they don't understand the thought process of should a person even be able to
Well, I
hoard
mean,
wealth when they get to a certain point. That
well, I was
conversation, I get it. It's controversial, and some people don't want to. They want to say, "Hey, you made something very that," but $1 billion. When you realize how much a billion is, and you have
well,
people struggling.
no, well, I won't necessarily do that because we have seen we just heard the stories that if the homies get taxed a half percentage each or a percentage each, we talking about also niggas who don't even pay taxes half the time. So double of what they already pay would just be paying something finally. You know what I'm saying? Like so.
But he knows what the problems are. That's the thing. Like these loopholes to get away from paying taxes is an issue. They got it, and you working with Trump to get
Well,
tax breaks, bro. You're
I
working
don't
with
want
Trump
to.
to
I
get
don't.
subsidies. I
Yes, but I
but
also
I
do
don't want to
like
play
it.
stupid. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
No, it's not even. I don't want to get too deep into a tax conversation because, if you can find a loophole as an everyday person, it helps. Like homestead tax for veterans or whatever the case may be for your house. But I'm not. I'm not talking. I know what you're saying,
I know.
but what
I
I'm
just
saying
want.
is that
Yeah.
the
No.
tax
No. Let me let you finish.
when
Go ahead.
once once it if it gets amended, we don't know the trickle down effect of what like, all of, WNB players. Fuck it, I'll use WNBA players because they have now just got a boost in revenue, $1 million contracts, whoever the case may be. Kelsey Plum, who plays for Los Angeles Sparks, famously has taken a $999,999 contract instead of getting paid $1 million because she didn't want to be taxed as a millionaire. You know what I'm saying? So like there are people who so to your point, these billionaires, their worth is billions, but are they liquid with billions? We talked about the stocks and the equity in companies and things like that. So they're billionaires on paper, right? And they use loopholes to like whatever the case may be, but they don't have like a billion
Listen, man.
liquid.
If he's being honest, you'll say we need to be more transparent and we do need to tax these billionaires on their stock. Like we need to figure out a way to cover the loopholes that I have taken advantage of, and Elon has taken advantage of, and you know, Bill Gates, all these guys who
Warren
all work.
Buffett, Steve
We need to
Ballmer,
cover these. If
Bill
he's being
Gates.
clearly completely honest about that, and I think it's very hypocritical when you amass this $1 billion by taking advantage of all this stuff to say, hey man, oh you know what, and I think that it's like a
But that's
big,
what they
it's
usually
a
do,
it's a
though.
it's
They
a it's
take
a the
advantage
big
of it and then they
statement.
pull the ladder up.
Exactly, and it's a big statement. Oh, let's just take the taxes away from people who make less than a certain amount of money, because they're. But that just really just separates the economies for real, for real. Now these people are not paying any taxes anymore, and we get to decide, okay, how much money we pay these guys, and we get to say, oh well, you're not paying taxes, so I can justify paying you $16 an hour, or 75,000 a year for our nurse. That's nothing, like you got to understand that the logic of these guys is that that's not going to help the nurse and queens either if you just take away taxes and then you keep her wages the same, and that's what he's actively fighting for, to keep his Amazon employees
And I
wages
don't.
the same, you
I hear
know.
I hear I mean I hear you on that, but then numbers and analytics, right? I don't know if that might make a difference because what I'm telling you is livable wages and stuff like that all come into equations when we talk about the tax about what you bring home, your net and your gross, right? So realistically, if I don't know if he's talking about also state income tax because you got state taxes you got to pay depending on what state you live in. I live in Florida. There's no state
I'm talking
tax.
about federal
Texas,
income tax.
okay. So what? So you would talk about a person like me who don't already have to pay state income tax and wouldn't have to pay federal income tax. which I don't know if that then subsidize and open up funding for healthcare for the kid. Like I don't know what that does, and then that might do allow that to be livable wages. I don't know. I won't be too ignorant because when we talk about a union, right, there will be gives and takes in a union.
So
So if he gives something, we should be like as you know be able to give back so it can be functional. That's my thought process with that.
the unions conversation is very it's extremely important in this country, and it's more important than people realize, because that is probably the number one reason why the wealth gap continues to grow. Is that we have nobody to fight for, more higher wages. I've done my research today, and I, like you're saying, like you don't know, like we want to figure out ways that we can circumvent this and solve these problems, right? So I'm done doing research, and the number one way to shorten the wealth gap is to. If you made it this far, you are a real one. Thank you. So please like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more daily content from your boys from Everything Is.